In this video, you're going to build another example using the CSS grid layout. So in this example, you're going to arrange pictures in the following way. So in this layout, you can see that all these pictures surround the middle picture, which is positioned exactly in the middle of the container. So what you need to do, you'll need to convert the container of these images to a grid, and then you need to take care of their positioning and their sizing and alignments so that you create this final layout. So let's go ahead and do this. So this is the starting point where you've got all the pictures placed inside a container div. So the first step is going to convert that container div to a grid, and then we will position the different grid items inside our grid container. So let's select the container first and change its display property to grid so that we convert it to a grid container. Then let's take care of the dimensions of the columns and rows. So first of all, you can see that you've got 4 columns in our final layout, and even if we reduce the width of the container, we have 4 columns all the time. So 4 columns and 4 rows. And to verify that, you can always go to the inspect section or the inspect feature in Chrome, for example. So just by selecting the container, you can see that we've got 4 columns and 4 rows. And that's because Chrome highlights the cells and not the grid items. So you can see that the middle picture occupies 4 cells, while the other grid items occupy 1 cell only. So let's go back to our styling sheet and set the dimensions of the columns using the grid template columns property, which I'm going to set to repeat 4 times 1 free available space. So this means that each column is going to take 1/4 of the width of the container, but we need to be careful here because the pictures still follow their original dimensions. So we need to go to the pictures and make sure that their maximum width is 100%, which will fit the picture inside the width of the cell or whatever container it's contained in. So let's go to the pictures inside the container and set their max width to 100%. All right. Now, since our pictures come in different sizes, it would be a good thing to control the height of the rows as well. So let's set this to 4 rows as well, each row occupying a height of 1 free available space. So this makes sure that all the rows, they have the same height. And then we'll take care of the alignment of the pictures inside their rows. Now let's add some space between the columns and the rows by adding the gutter, which is the property grid gap, and let's set that to 5 pixels, for instance. All right. So looking at the final layout, what we want exactly is that this picture goes and occupies those 4 cells. So let's see where this picture is in our first design or first layout. So here it is. It's actually the 6th picture inside our container. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select that picture, and then I'm going to set its positioning inside the grid. So we're selecting the 6th image inside our container. So let's go to the container and go to images, and we're going to use the nth child 6. So now we're going to be selecting that image, and what we want to do, we want this image to occupy 2 cells horizontally and 2 cells vertically. So let's go ahead and do this using the grid column property, which I'm going to set to span 2, and the grid row property, which I'm going to set to span 2 as well. So our image now occupies 2 cells horizontally and 2 cells vertically. And this is exactly what we wanted. Now that was a simple way of achieving our final results without having to use grid areas. Now, what if you wanted to go for the grid areas method? Well, it's pretty simple as well. So what you need to do is specify the grid areas. So let's call them, for example, A, B, C, D. Going all the way to P, since we've got 16 cells. And then instead of using the grid column and grid row properties, you can just use the grid area property and say that this picture is going to start at cell F and will go until cell K, which means that it's going to occupy cells F, G, J, and K. So from F to K, and to do that, I'm going to write F/F going to K/K. And it looks like I've got a semicolon missing right there. And now we achieved our final layout using grid areas this time. So hopefully you're now comfortable using the different properties that come with the CSS grid layout to achieve different layouts. Now, we still need to add a few things to our project, like centering the images. So you can see that the final layout shows images which are centered vertically inside their rows. So let's go ahead and do this. So you're going to use the align items property, which I'm going to set to center. Here we go. And now our project is complete. Later on in the course, you are going to build a full professional project using CSS grid layout, and you will have the opportunity to build some complex layouts using the CSS grid layout.